so lesson 1. Any questions, anything so far? Okay, lesson 1. Okay, at the very top, there's 2 verses, which is a little bit confusing, but the one verse is the verse for the entire week. And a lot of these kids aren't used to memorizing verses and stuff like that, so we just thought, if these guys just want one verse the entire week, it's going to be so much better than trying to get 5 verses into their minds, right? So, the verse of the day, which is the first one, is something they'll talk about up there on stage. And it has to do with the lesson of the day. But the verse of the week, we can constantly be talking about, reminding, and asking how it fits in today's lesson. Sounds good? Okay. Cool. It'd be really cool if kids could memorize it and maybe give out a piece of candy or something to kids that by the end of the week have memorized it. That'd be neat. Okay. During the very first thing that you do is snack time. Even if you're in the first group or the second group, whether whatever the thing is, we figured we don't want snack to be right next to them running out on the course.
I have a question that makes sense. So is that why there's a 6:40, 7:30? Like why we have
Perfect, yes.
that?
If you're in a group that has the lesson first and then goes on the course, then you're
6:40 time.
use those times.
Oh, that makes sense.
If you're in the group that has the course first and then has the lesson afterward, it would help you.
Okay.
Because they'll be all riled up after that. But there'll be a snack time to kind of decompress just a little bit. During that's and then you'll be following these numbers over here. And this is a rough estimate. If you're falling behind or you're ahead of schedule, don't worry about it. Hopefully, if you're ahead of schedule, we'll have a couple of little games you can just pull out. We talked about putting cards in the room and you just pull it out, read the instructions, and play a game or something like that. I don't think there'll be a whole lot of time at the end. If we go through these, you'll see. There's plenty packed in. So during the snack time, rather than just eating snacks, maybe we'll ask some questions. Who can quote the memory verse of the week? What's the ninja skill of the day? How does that ninja skill relate to our verse? Now, we don't have to teach the ninja skill. That's being taught by Gil or Daniel. Daniel Gil?
Yeah,
out in the dojo.
And that's gonna be how long after the beginning time?
15 minutes?
What?
How
The
long is
beginning.
the beginning program?
It's 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
There's a schedule there, Jamie. I don't think you've seen a schedule before.
Oh, you have one.
Take
Okay.
a look at that.
Yeah, there's okay.
Perfect.
And I'll have a packet for you that night. You don't have to bring that.
And the questions at the beginning during snack time are all very similar, but they'll have a little bit different answer every night. So, okay. Then a lot of the lessons have a challenge activity to kind of transition from snack into the lesson, but the kids like an illustration, like I had you try to stand up, or something that kind of gets them thinking and engaged. So this first one is bet you can't lift your leg, and literally, if you stand. If you want to try this, you can try it.
I know you're trying it.
Have you tried it now?
Yeah.
You put your leg against the wall, put your
Jared,
shoulder
do it.
against the wall, you put your head against the wall, and then you literally cannot lift that leg.
You can't.
It's not against the wall. And it seems like so easy. It's like, oh, that's going to be easy to
That's
do.
like how.
Go try it. You put your leg against the wall, your shoulder
Without
against the
moving
wall, your head against
anything
the
off
wall.
the wall.
Like,
Yeah.
like
And now lift that leg.
It wants to.
But if somebody puts their hand on your shoulder, then you can. So there's a little bit more to the illustration, and that is that with the help of a friend or God's help, we can do things that are impossible to do by ourselves.
There's gonna be one kid that says, well, don't put your head and body against the wall to
And then
begin
you
with.
want, yeah. And that would be you. Yes, now you're starting to see what she was like as a child. Okay, so that's just a little illustration, and then the point is life is full of challenges that seem impossible and sometimes are impossible without God. Right? But you can expound upon that, or you can just read it. Does that make sense? Good, okay. Now we're transitioned, the kids are ready to learn, so we're now going to go into the Moses lesson. There's a little bit of a setup there with a poster board, with an obstacle course. Do we have that? Obstacle poster board. And I think a lot of people learn different ways. So we want to have some activities. We want to have write some stuff up. We want to have different kinds of ways that they learn. So this was a way to take something that's all audible learning and also add a little bit of visual into it. So does anybody know sign language? Is that?
I already know the sign, so.
There's a lot of people, like, we're talking about things that hold us back and challenges in our lives. Some people have challenges speaking or hearing, and so they learn to speak with their hands. So that's actually, you know, one of the ways that some people overcome challenges in their lives. And so the sign language for ninja is, right? So this is the sign language for ninja. Pretty cool, huh? So is it like that? No thumbs?
No thumbs.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so as we
Keep your
read,
hand in normal position.
so as we read through the story of Moses, anytime you hear an obstacle in Moses' life, something that might have held him back, I want you to go like this, right? Now with the older kids, that might not be so cool, right?
We have to do that every time we
Right.
talk about those.
So if they don't like that idea, or you don't want to do that with the older kids, I don't care. But the idea is be thinking while you're listening to the story about obstacles in Moses' life. Okay, sounds good. So the book of Exodus tells the story of a ninja warrior named Moses. He didn't start out looking like a warrior. In fact, when Moses was born, his family, all his relatives, and all the Israelites who lived in Egypt were slaves of the Egyptians. Here, anyone make you're making a ninja move. What is the obstacle in Moses' life?
Being born into slavery.
Born into slavery. Now, with the young kids, I think that's enough. But with the older kids, we can get into a much deeper issue here, and that is ethnicity, right? Your culture, your background. They probably, I'll bet you most of the kids in there have either struggled with it themselves, or they know somebody in their class or in their neighborhood who is struggling with that particular issue. Like they was, either bullied or something, right? This is a real issue. And Moses was dealing with this, right? Now, that brings up, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand a marker to either one of the kids if they're old enough, right, or one of my helpers. Oh, that was right. I told you there was two helps that you have, like Aaron, right? One is the text, but the other one is the people in the room. Use them. Tell them to jump up and do stuff for you. Have them jump in an activity and run the activity so that you can do something else. Like right now, rather than me taking the marker and spending 30 seconds writing the word slavery here and then getting back to the story, which is going to take up time, hand the marker to someone and say, hey, could you write the word slavery? And then just keep reading. While they're writing the word, we're going on to the next piece, right? So use the people in the room, have them, get them to the point where they're taking stuff out of your hand and say, hey, let me do that for you so that you can, like that. This is your team, so let them help you. Sounds good? Okay, I forgot to say that earlier. Okay, so we jump into the next part, yada, 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 yada. When he got too big or too noisy to hide anymore, she put him in a basket and floated him down the river. Right, his life was being threatened. Oh, that was what I was going to say. We want to write things up here that they can relate with. So like the slavery, probably none of the kids that are in the classroom have been through slavery, but they are going to be able to understand issues about ethnicity. So we're going to write that down. And you'll see that as we go through life being threatened, maybe we want to reword that in such a way, such as,
People wanted to hurt him.
wanted to
Something
hurt
like
him.
that.
Now all of a sudden they're going to relate to that, right? These kids are going to be like, I've been in that situation. I had a kid on the playground that wanted to punch my daylights out of me. So okay, so try to get things on here that relate to the kids. Does that make sense? Moses' basket floated right up to where the king's daughter was taking a bath. So I think you get the idea. This one, Moses killed an Egyptian. Maybe they won't do this, but that's a good place to stop and start talking about it. Really, really important. What's the obstacle? Murder? Is that?
Did something that he shouldn't have.
Bad choices. Every kid in the room can relate to that. Probably none of them have murdered yet. But
Yes.
probably.
It hasn't for yet.
Future murderer.
Probably. But every single one of them knows what it means to make a bad choice and feel guilty about it. And that's what Moses is going through, right? He feels really guilty. He runs out in the desert. So again, we want to relate this to the kids. So we're going to put up here, rather than murder, probably we're going to want something like made bad choices. And it's okay if you make murder too. I mean, it's like, but the idea is to get more and more words in it. Good. So we go down through here. We've got an obstacle of doubt. we've got an obstacle of speech impediment. So Moses, said, I'm not good with my words, and traditionally a lot of the church history has taught that Moses had an actual speech impediment. Another really great thing to bring out, like physical things that we feel make us inadequate, right? Is like there's going to be kids that have learning disabilities. There's going to be kids that have dealt with speech impediments. There's going to be kids that have dealt with these things. So to get that on this board and realize, hey, Moses had an issue, that's going to be really neat for these kids to see that and realize that the hero of our story actually, had an obstacle that maybe they had. That's really cool. Really cool stuff. Okay. And then at the end, Moses was old, but maybe the obstacle is age. Like, have you ever felt too young, right? Okay. Neat. So we ended. The end of the story is that Moses led them out of Egypt. He's the hero. We pause. What's the obstacle? He was old. Have you ever felt too young to be able to serve God? Well, some people may have thought Moses was too old to do what God was asking him to do. Good. End of the story. So now we want to get into a place where the students can actually respond. And so you'll see that towards the end of every lesson, there's some kind of opportunity to respond and react. In this particular case, we have the idea of handing out like a Post-it note. Now, with the really young kids, they probably won't know how to write or write words and stuff like that. So either the person that's with them, like if they break down in groups of five groups of five, then the person who's leading that group could help write. That's one option. Another is you might say, think of an obstacle in your life and put a mark on the paper to represent it, or draw a little picture to represent it. And give them a few seconds to draw like a, I don't know what they would draw, but draw something. And so now in their mind, they've got this piece of paper that has their obstacle on it, right? And so, then, you skip down a little bit. It says, "Thank you. I know this is hard to take time to recognize your obstacles in your life, your own challenges. That God is willing and ready to help you deal with them." How awesome is that? What if God could just show up in your life and help you deal with the struggle that you wrote on your Post-it note? Sometimes God asks us to do bold things. So I'm going to ask you to do something really bold. Would anyone want to share what they wrote or what they put on the paper? And you might have a group that nobody wants to share, or you might have a group that everyone, And it'll be really encouraging for kids that aren't used to a church setting to see other kids sharing and think, wow, this is a place that's safe to share but write them down. If somebody says, well, I have a learning disability, write it down. And so what you start to do is you start to collect on this sheet not only Moses' issues, but our issues, like in this room, like what we're doing. Does that make sense? So then when you go to prayer, Lord, thank you for seeing us differently than we see ourselves. Teach us to trust you. Teach us to love you. We place each of these obstacles at your feet, and then you could actually read the obstacles. Probably not the slavery and the murder one, but you can read, obstacles of ethnicity and challenges and bad things that we've done and our doubts, and you read them off of that sheet. And now it's real to the kids because not only were we praying things about we heard about Moses, but things that they actually share, right? That draws them into this experience.
Yeah, so just as a quick question for you as we go through here, since we're all dealing with different age levels, does it make sense either to define what an obstacle is or ask them what they think an obstacle is before you, because you've used the word like 20 times, and I'm thinking as a first
I didn't
grader,
even think of that.
how
Yeah,
many kids,
what's the
you
word
can talk
obstacle
about
mean?
an obstacle, I mean, I do this because I was in a meeting the other day and I kept using the word deductible.
That's why you're here.
Deductible, right?
That's why
And so I
you're
see
here.
somebody lean over and go, deductible.
What's a deductible? Yes.
So-
I was watching a video the other day and I had to look up something that person was using like 5 or 6
times, and I'm wondering especially for some of the younger kids, if the word obstacle.
Now we're trying to help by putting an obstacle course here, and I think he's going to talk a little bit about it in the Dave Dojo. But yeah, anything like that you think these kids could use a little bit of help on definition, spend a little bit of time on that, and then cut something else, like another sentence or two out that doesn't have any meaning to them. Like, yeah, you don't have to get through like every single line. We do want to try to hit every section, but.
Yeah, I would think, as you're at the beginning of this, when you say, when we listen to the story and when you hear and listen for what an obstacle is. You guys know what an obstacle is?
Have you ever
Perfect
Try to get them,
something
that's
to
perfect time to just have.
For the younger
Make
kids.
sure they understand what we're talking about before we keep going.
And then the most valuable thing is you and your interaction with these kids. And so I love to see opportunities for you to connect. And I've done this with the kids in VBS before, where I'll say, if you want me to pray for you, just give me that piece of paper. Or I'll say to them, everything that you've placed on the cross, like sometimes we'll put stuff on the cross, I'm going to take these home and I'm going to pray for you guys tonight. And it's powerful. Sometimes I'm just in tears with what some of the kids wrote and stuff like that. But so what I thought here, since some of them might not be ready for that, is, hey, if you want me to pray, I'm going to pray for all of you by name tonight. But if you want me to pray for your specific obstacle, write your name on it, fold it over, hand it to me, and tonight I'm going to pray for you guys. And then of course the next day you come in and say, hey, I was praying for all you guys. Thank you for sharing those obstacles, that kind of thing. But it can build a really valuable connection between you and the kids that are in group. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes perfect sense.
A little bit more for
It doesn't,
the kids.
doesn't really say what are we gonna do with the post-it notes. They just get to
I
keep
stick them in my
them.
pocket.
Right,
Oh,
they're-
what they would do with it? That's a good question.
The
Sometimes in
post-its
the
we
past,
said,
yeah.
If
they
they don't
could
wanna give
give
it
to
to
you,
you,
if they didn't want to,
they
they
could
could
probably
just,
just throw it away
they could
or-
throw it away, or they could just put it in their pocket, or.
Or you could just tell them all to give them to you, whether they want to or not, If they want you to pray for them, then write their name on it. If not, just fold it over and give it to you. And then you don't know who it is. That might be less threatening.
Right, but they might still,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah. We don't want them all over the floor, but
Right.
those are good questions.
So I was thinking with the post-it, like, I'm thinking, all right, we're gonna post it somewhere.
It's actually gonna be a square piece of paper, because we have so much paper that we have colored paper
Okay.
that we're just trying to get rid of in the office, so. Instead of buying Post-its, it was just gonna be
No.
There will be
a
times,
quarter paper.
but the cross, we're gonna
It's
have
not
to
sticky.
put it on there.
No stickiness.
With the courage meter, we're gonna post it on there, or a sticky on there. There are some things that they get up and they put on, but I didn't, if you do that every night, then it's like,
Yeah.
it's a little
I
bit.
get it.
Okay, and then at the end, there's a question and answer. Well, if you're running overtime, guess what, can get shortened really short.
Mhm.
This would be a really good thing to do. When I wrote these, I had no idea that we were gonna break down into little groups of 5 and have a leader with each group. But this would be a really, great time to break down into little groups of 5 if you haven't already. Maybe the previous one would be a good time to do that.
Should we like make copies of these and give them to our?
I'll have copies in
Other
every room
leaders?
for you. You'll have copies.
She
in-
means 5,
each of
one
the
for
group.
each of the.
The
5
question.
groups. Oh, yeah, you'll have.
Yeah, they'll be in each room for each group.
Okay, perfect.
We'll have,
Good.
So
I'll have
we're
like
gonna-
She's amazing.
two sets per group in your room. So I'll have like 20 copies in there. Use them and then leave them for the next group, and then we'll clean up whatever's left and throw them away and put out new ones for the next day. So everybody will have something to read
Perfect.
from.
So if they don't have time, they can just do 1 or 2 questions. If they
Mhm.
have a lot of time, they can expand upon it and ask a few extra questions, So there's a lot of flexibility in there. What were you gonna ask?
So this whole lesson is for us teaching 25, and then at the very end, if we have time, we can break down in smaller groups.
That's one way to do it.
With design?
It was designed, I didn't realize we were gonna break down into small groups. So you could also choose to break down into small groups with the whole Post-it note thing and have each individual group, a leader of the 5, do that, and it's a little bit more personal. That would also be a way to do it.
You would have to narrate that a little bit and say, okay, we're gonna break into our groups of 5.
Right.
This is what I want
You'd
you to
be telling
do,
the
so you
leader
don't
what
have
to
to
do with this.
explain it to every, teen and adult helper that you have. Facilitate it for them,
So I'm giving you
tell them
leeway
to do
there.
it in their
Right.
small groups.
I didn't think about it ahead of time.
That's what I'm thinking about, is if we do everything as a group of 25, and we have people helping everywhere to help collect and do all that.
And then break down just at the end. Yeah.
And then break down into smaller groups for the last
Perfect, I love it.
discussion questions.
I would
Yeah.
say for ease of time, if you're gonna break down into the small groups, rather than saying to the group, why don't we break down into small groups of 5, and then you see the kids all do this. And so you count them off.
they're gonna
One,
be
two, three,
predetermined
four,
by
five,
that night,
six,
so
six.
you'll know who your
five,
subgroup is.
okay,
Yeah.
good, so
And
it's
for
not
the
like
whole
they're
week,
looking around
Yeah.
those are
and
your
saying,
five.
They wanna be
"Ooh,
with
I
their
don't wanna
buddies,
be
their
down, you're out,
friends,
you're
yeah,
in,
yeah,
you're
yeah.
For the
out."
whole
Yeah.
week, those are the five, yeah.
Those are
Yeah.
their buddies, okay.
So everybody
good,
will be
so
in
that's
charge of like
already-
five, but you'll all be a group together.
So when you say break down, you're taking your
You're
five.
taking your five. And actually each room, will be set up for you, and in each room, there'll be 5 big fabric squares on the floor, and that's where each 5 sits. So you'll kind of already be in your subgroups already when you sit down, but it's not to say like a
You
friend
have to
can't
do
sit
that.
near their friend. You know what I mean? We're not trying to be mean about it. It's just sort of like, those are the designated areas to sit in when it's time
When
to
it's time to group.
break up, yeah.
Okay.
And the rooms will be relatively empty.
They'll be empty from all chairs and tables and furniture. It'll just be an empty room, nothing else going on, just the
Very
fabric
different
squares
from
on the
our normal
floor
VBS.
and what you need for that night.
That's
So,
why I'm
No.
kinda,
Okay, so again, the orange is what is red for the question, the gray is things to, the brackets is things to do, and then the blue is like suggested answers if you're trying to help coax answers out of people. You know, if the class is silent, like feel free to share, like if there's an example, like have you ever had a time in your life, you know, that God helped you, have some like ideas of your own, share your own ideas, because there's a real value to, you know, a kid hearing an adult give an answer to something like that, you know. So be willing to do that, have the other people in the group ready to jump in there and say, hey, you know, I had a time that, you know, so they'll be ready with answers too. I think that'll be really, really helpful. Okay, then there's like a little wrap up, key point, you know, which kind of wraps up the whole lesson. And then a lot of nights we try to give something for them to take home, you know, because there's a real, you know, value. I think my favorite is the little rock with Joshua on one island. But this night is a ninja bandana. But we were thinking, oh wow, it'd be cool if we have time, you know, for them to have a Bible verse or something, maybe right on the bandana. I'm gonna decorate the
How
bandana.
do you know it's a bandana? Does that say that somewhere that I'm not seeing?
Ninja bandana? Oh, you don't have that on yours?
No.
I think we took it out.
Okay, maybe we took it out.
Yeah, the
Okay.
bandana was
Bandana.
gone, right?
Yeah, we cut that out because nobody wanted to.
So we're not doing a bandana?
No bandanas.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay, you will not give them a bandana.
Okay.
You will not give them a bandana. Okay, so, but a lot of nights we want to give them something that they're going to take home, because you think about it, you know, this thing's going to sit on their shelf for the next 3 years until their mom gets tired and throws it away, and they'll be thinking about, oh yeah, I remember Joshua 1:9 because we memorized it. I remember that ninja camp, or I remember that lady Minnie that taught me all that stuff about Jesus, you know, and that can be that thing that ties them back to that moment, you know. So we want to try to give them little things that they can. That the rocks. Yeah, that'll be one of the lessons we talked about. But thanks. I love that. I think that'd be, it's so simple, but yet, you know, kids are gonna be like, oh, it's my little rock.
When will they get these little things? Like, is this towards the end? Will it say that somewhere?
Yes.
Is
If
there
it's
a
something
certain
that we're
day?
doing, yeah, each day. Let's go through the other. So you wanna pause that and like start it again?
I think that, the rock one is the last night.
Does anyone need a drink?
It's David and Goliath.
Raisin
There's
juice.
Yeah, I don't like
raisins in that
raisins.
one.